Welcome to First Take. I'm Roz Gold-Onwude. I'm here with Max Kellerman. Stephen A. is off, so we have the great pleasure of Emmanuel Acho joining us today. And we've got some great basketball minds in the building because the trade deadline just came and went. We got Damon Jones here, Jay Williams.
I don't know how to feel about that. You led with DJ first.
You just to my right. It was just the.
I respect that, though, DJ.
I mean, it's okay.
I can do it.
I know it's okay for you.
I know it's okay. Basketball minds in the building. Jay Williams, Damon Jones.
I'm going to start referring to myself in the third person like Acho.
How did you get a straight shot? You didn't even do nothing.
Are we done? Can we start the show now?
Yeah, let's start the show. Guys, we had some cool NBA games last night. Let's start with the 76ers last night. The Sixers lost their fourth straight game in a loss to the Bucks, 112-101. And while Giannis Antetokounmpo dominated with 36 points, 20 rebounds, Joel Embiid struggled his way to 19 points on 6 of 26 shooting. With each loss piling and murmurs of discontent in the locker room rising and the word soft
Three T's.
being thrown around from everyone from Shaq and Charles to Ben Simmons himself, guys. Max, I'll start with you. Should we believe in the Sixers as contenders anymore?
The answer is surprisingly yes, we should believe in them as contenders. Here's the thing you can't teach, you can't coach, whatever. Talent. The Sixers have talent, and it's in there somewhere. Now, the waters are rocky right now. It's choppy. And did their odds go up or down since before the season began? They've gone down in my estimation. But you cannot count them out. The real issue with the Sixers has not been Embiid, has not been Simmons. It's actually been Al Horford and Tobias Harris. Al Horford went from like the best player whose stats didn't tell you the whole story when you watched him. The more you watched them, the more you appreciated. The man could take the ball up the floor if he had to. He could pass. He could shoot. He could score, in the interior. He could post up. He could defend the rim. He could guard in space. Wow, you love this Swiss Army knife player, like, in a way, a kind of longer Draymond Green, right? Like, what? And what happened to Al Horford? Turns out the man's never played power forward before. You said, what? He looks like he could play, he never played power forward before? Yeah, he literally hasn't. He's been awful, and they invested a whole bunch of money in him. Tobias Harris has been awful. They've been awful. Simmons and Embiid, as much as I've said, Simmons needs his own team so he can develop like the Greek freak, surround him with shooters and everything. Let's not get that twisted. That doesn't mean that Simmons and Embiid can't succeed together. I will remind everybody, Kawhi Leonard, having one of the greatest playoff stretches in the history of basketball, had to go around those two guys and hit a miracle corner three to get by them in Game 7.
A win's a win, though.
Now, since then, is there issues here and there, whatever? Yeah. They just added a couple of shooters, and I want to tell you one other thing. They can't buy a win on the road, right?
Yeah.
Do you know what they are at home this year?
22.
League's best record.
22-2. You know what that means? Hey, Sixers, go steal a game on the road.
Yeah.
You're live against anyone, any team, East or West. If they can steal a game on the road, they can win that series.
You know, Max, I got to disagree with you based on the first sentence you said. You said one word that I think is actually undermining the whole Sixers team. You said talent, and you focused on talent. And I think something that transcends one sport is talent actually isn't the most important thing. And I think we saw this last night. It's effort. It's effort and it's energy, and you got to be galvanized and you have to be led by your best players. Your best players have to play their best. We saw Embiid and we saw Giannis. And when I was watching that game, and I'm not a sports expert like the basketball expert like the gentleman sitting up here to my right, but what I do know is this. Embiid kind of plays like he's full. Giannis plays like he's hungry. Like, Giannis plays like he still has something to prove every single time he touches a ball. And then you look at the stats, just to make sure my eyes weren't crazy, Roz, I had to look at the stats. Embiid's average shot was from 17 feet away from the basket. I'm like, ain't this dude 7'1"? Isn't he supposed to be the best big man we've seen since Shaq? And yet his average shot 17 feet away from the basket when Giannis's is only 11. What's the difference here? There's one play, though, that's stuck in my mind. Fourth quarter. Down by 15. Ben Simmons throws a pass to Embiid. It's a little bit off target. Embiid looks at the ball, looks at Simmons, and just mugs him like, hey, bruh, I'm not chasing that. Then, 2 possessions later, Giannis up by 14. Loose ball. He dives for it on the floor. So I'm like, I don't care how talented this Sixers team is because they are incredibly talented, but they have to be led by their best player. And right now,
they did better against the Clippers, the Clippers. The Raptors last year in the playoffs, then the Bucks did.
Yeah.
The Sixers did better than Kawhi and the Raptors, then the Bucks did.
Well, they are contenders, and I'm going to tell you why. Because Joel Embiid is the second best player in the Eastern Conference behind Giannis. And right now, he is in the worst shape possible. And I could say that probably because of hand, he sat out, he's lost his conditioning, but he's going to get that conditioning back. And Jay will say this.
That's what I want to know.
That's going to take time.
That's a real question.
It's going to take time. I mean, he has to get in the gym. He has to do some extra stuff, and he's going to get it. It's going to translate into his mind. He has to get back in the gym, and he has to get back to work. But Jay knows this. Over an 82-game season, it's always like this. Always. And right now, they're at the low point. They can't win on the road. They got backbiting in the locker room. But something is going to happen during the course of the season that's going to make it click for those guys, and they're going to be right there.
Here's what confuses me, though. You said Embiid's the second best player in the East, and I'm only partial because I lived in Philly. I played sports in Philly when I was with the Eagles for that time, and so I really watched that team. Are you the second best player based off potential or based off production?
He's the second best player in the East in talent. He's not the second best player in the East.
Who is the second best?
I would go Pascal Siakam. I think people really forgot about the Toronto Raptors. I think people have really been disrespectful. And obviously, I think Nick Nurse is one of the top 10 coaches in the league. Let me put off to this. We actually have the tape because you brought up the moment. I actually have the tape because I did it last night. A team is only as good as the effort of their best player.
Yep.
Right? Putting to words, and you could tell that Ben and Joel Embiid do not rock with each other. Like, watch the pause here. Like,
that's
watch
it right
the pause. Watch the stare from Joel to Ben. Like, oh, you gonna throw that pass? And then Ben points at him like, yo, the loose ball is still in play. And here are the effort plays that you have by Giannis. Right now, they're up by 14 in this game. Watch Giannis dive on the floor for the loose ball. Right up by 14, the effort of the best player dictates the tone of how their team plays. Then once again, on the fast break, Giannis is going to say, oh, we're still up by 10 or 11. Now, you ain't going to get no easy chippies here, Ben. I'm going to foul you. I'm going to foul you and put you to the free throw line. So I will say this. I put a lot of the onus on Joel Embiid. I've been to games. I've sat courtside. I watched them play. I understand that Ben Simmons doesn't shoot the ball. And I think a little bit is that on Brett Brown actually holding Ben Simmons' feet to the fire, forcing him to be different. But I will say this. Every time I watch Ben Simmons play, he plays hard as hell.
Yeah.
He plays hard.
By the way, and I want to challenge something about who's the best player on that team. Basketball is an easy sport to get that confused based on the numbers guys put up. So sometimes, like Kobe would tell you when he was playing with Shaq early on, Kobe thought he was the best player on that team. But he deferred what was so hard for him, and now Shaq had bigger numbers. Even if we all think Shaq was actually the best player on that team, it was close. And Kobe, one of the things he'd do is swallow his ego because Shaq was going to get the numbers. So that's the best way for them to win. We saw what Ben Simmons did when Embiid was out. Now, of course, the team performed worse because Embiid's a great player who wasn't there. So you're subtracting an all-star. But when Embiid was out, Simmons put up Embiid number. Like, he put up those eye-popping, whoa, how many assists, how many boards,
So
how many points?
what are you trying to say about Ben?
I'm saying Ben Simmons is an elite player. And the reason that's obscured is because the way the team, he doesn't have a team built around him. If they played 5 out with 4 shooters around Ben Simmons, his numbers would look more like the Greek Freaks. He just can't shoot. But if you had a team really built around him, you'd see that. His defense is elite. He's probably the defensive player of the year. His offense, when called upon, is elite and has enough self-awareness to suppress his ego to do what the team needs him to do, which also affects his numbers. I don't know that Embiid is the best player on
Guys,
the
we're
team.
hearing a lot of names being thrown around. What I want to throw to you guys is this idea of talent and effort. Seeing that all come together. Jay, you pointed out Joel is kind of your onus for that. Where do you think it has to start on this team? Is it Brett Brown? Is it Joel Embiid? Is it a Ben Simmons to get that to mesh?
Everything is circled around Joel Embiid. Okay. That's it.
That's it.
Now Jimmy Butler's gone, right? He was their closer. He was the guy they went through late in games or whatever. Who are they going to go to now? Ben Simmons? No, they need to throw the ball into Joel Embiid and make him play. He had plays last night where he took the ball to the basket, he scored, he got offensive rebounds. When he's in shape, he's the second best player in the Eastern Conference.
We track pace. You know who has the slowest pace on their team?
I don't care about pace.
But you
But it
should.
matters.
Why do you
should.
care about
Pace doesn't.
Because the
Pace.
NBA has changed.
Oh, listen,
Okay, what's
the
your-
NBA has changed,
Damon Jones,
but I don't care
what's
about
your
pace in the playoffs. I don't care about that.
Go ahead, keep
I'm
going.
coaching. I'm
Keep going.
coaching. I'm coaching. Get the ball in there to Embiid.
Here's the
What's the last team that won a championship that had their best player as a center?
a million years ago.
I'll wait. Go ahead, Damon. I'll wait.
I can't even think off the top
That
of
is
my
no
head.
longer the game, brother. That is not the game we're
You know,
playing
you could
anymore.
argue the Golden State Warriors because they play Draymond Green.
Draymond
at
Green.
center, so-
We
but
have-
he's not there. Or
Wasn't
Kevin
the best
Durant's the
player.
tallest
We even
player.
had the Pistons that said, all right, Andre Drummond, like we don't see a
For a
future
ham
around
sandwich.
you. For a ham, like, we have to let go of you. Like Clint Capella, Houston Rockets, we're going to go small ball. That's the way
Jay,
the game
I
is
want to address
transitioning,
something
guys.
you brought up about pace. Here's an issue I see in the Sixers I don't see a lot of people talking about. They have guys who can pass the ball, but the only quick decision maker is Ben Simmons. And what you talk about, you want to see him post, you want to see him get his big body down there, all that. That can be a high percentage shot for a guy like that. But the fact is, in terms of pace, when you do that, if it's like station to station basketball, if it's not flowing, if the only quick decision maker is the point guard, then actually, if I'm the Sixers, I'm putting the ball in Ben Simmons' hand. I'm saying run that offense. And
now
I think everyone's got to get in
Now I have to
line.
wait for Joel Embiid to get down the floor, so
Yeah.
I can't push the ball with the same
Embiid's
speed.
gotta get in line,
Slow
too.
it down, make it a half-court set, which is fine. But when other teams have a different pace, you can't keep up with that. It's not sustainable.
I understand that, but what I'm saying, come playoff basketball, transition baskets are minimal. So if they're going to stop Ben Simmons from going coast to coast like they did last year against Giannis, then what do I do? What do I go to? What did the Milwaukee Bucks go
I
to?
think that's why they're going to do better in the playoffs than people
We got to
think.
wrap, guys.
Exactly.
But Jay, because you guys were going back and forth on that, do you disagree or agree? Come playoff time, does the pace still slow down like we've said over the course of past years? Is that still the case, though?
Oh, the pace does really slow down, but the only problem is this is where Brett Brown needs to take his game to the next level, because now you need to give this team the right vehicle to succeed.
I agree with you.
All right, cool. Well, we're going to take a break on that. We got more basketball talk coming up. LeBron and AD are favorites to win the title, but should they be after no moves at the trade deadline? Speaking of the Lakers, they are upset by the undersized Rockets last night. Why the West could have their hands full with Houston come playoff time. Plus, we have the Super Bowl champ who may think less of Jimmy G than Stephen A. Chief star Frank Clark is coming up in the second hour. Don't go anywhere.